Hey, friend. Welcome to the Hearts Hello Show. This is a space where we stop pretending everything is fine and start telling the truth about what it actually takes to grow. Because the reality is, life will stretch you. It will challenge your mindset, test your character, and reveal the places where what you say you believe and how you actually live don't always match. And that's where the real work begins. So here we talk about authenticity, faith, personal responsibility, relationships, and the internal alignment required to become who you were created to be. So wherever you are right now, take a breath, slow down, and let's have the conversation your heart has been waiting for. So, this episode is probably one of the most personal episodes I've recorded in a long time. Not because I'm about to sit here and tell you all my business. You know that's not going to happen. But because I think for the first time, I finally understand what has actually been happening to me over the last few years. And honestly, I don't think I could have recorded this episode any earlier than now because I don't think I fully had the language for it yet. I just knew something in me was shifting, something was feeling different. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, then you've probably felt it too. The conversations have been changing. The way I see things have been changing. Even the questions I ask have been changing. And I think it's because life forced me to stop looking at the things only from a lens of emotionally and start looking at them behaviorally. See, over the last few years, y'all have watched me walk through a lot in real time. Divorce, rebuilding my life, rediscovering who I am outside of survival, being laid off, rebuilding financially, rebuilding emotionally, trying to navigate purpose while simultaneously trying to survive. And if I'm honest, there were moments where I was recording episodes while actively trying not to fall apart inside myself. There were times I would finish recording and sit in silence afterwards and realize, dang, I'm encouraging people through something I'm still trying to survive. And that's just real. And I think somewhere in the middle of all of that, I started paying attention differently. Not just to pain, not just to healing, not just to purpose, but to patterns, human patterns. The things people keep doing even when they know those things are hurting them, including me, hand raised. And that part is important because this wasn't just me observing everybody else. This was me having to confront myself too. I started realizing how many times I was overextending, not because I genuinely wanted to, but because somewhere along the way, being needed became attached to my identity. And nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about how people can start building entire identities around surviving, around carrying, around enduring, around being the strong one. And the dangerous part is people will praise you for that. People love the version of you that keeps showing up no matter how tired you are. The version of you that's always figuring it out. The version of you that keeps pouring. The version of you that says, I got it. Even when internally you're drowning. And after a while, you start believing that's who you are. Not realizing it may just be who survival trained you to become. And so that realization sat heavy with me because I had to start asking myself the difficult questions. How much of my behavior is actually intentional? And how much of it was created from environments I had to survive? And honestly, being laid off intensified that question for me. Because when you're constantly producing, constantly helping, constantly achieving, constantly surviving, you don't always stop long enough to ask who you are underneath it all. See, I remember sitting there thinking, who am I when I'm not fixing something? Who am I when I'm not helping everybody? Who am I when I'm not surviving? And friend, that question exposed more in me than I expected because I realized how much of my identity had been built around endurance. Not peace, not rest, endurance. And at the same time, professionally, I'm working in compliance, risk, regulations, banking, operational systems, and something started clicking for me. See, corporations have systems of compliance, policies, conditioning, expected behaviors, operational patterns. And guess what? Humans do too. See, that realization changed the way I started seeing almost everything. I started realizing how many people are emotionally complying every single day without even noticing it. Complying with fear, complying with dysfunction, complying with silence, complying with people pleasing, complying with burnout, complying with unhealthy relationships and dynamics, complying with versions of themselves that they've already outgrown. And what really started bothering me was this. A lot of people know they're unhappy. They know they're exhausted. They know the relationship is draining them. They know the environment is unhealthy. They know they're overextending. They know that they are abandoning themselves, and yet they still participate in the pattern. And that question kept following me. Why do humans continue patterns even after becoming aware of them? See, that question right there changed my voice because I realized I'm no longer interested in only talking about healing on a surface level. I want to understand the behavior, understand the conditioning. I want to understand why people shrink, why people stay, why people perform, why people over-explain, why people fear rest, while people remain loyal to identities that are exhausting them. And honestly, this podcast had to evolve because I evolved. And maybe better said, life forced me deeper. See, I can't unsee what I'm seeing now. I'm watching people say they want peace while emotionally choosing chaos because chaos feels familiar. See, I'm watching people say they want honesty until honesty disrupts the role they assign somebody in their life. See, I'm watching people say that they're tired while rejecting help because being needed became part of their identity. I'm watching people stay loyal to survival versions of themselves while praying for freedom. And again, I've had to confront some of that in myself too. And that's why this shift feels personal. This is not me randomly choosing a new lane. Nah, This feels like all roads of my life finally colliding into one conversation. Personally, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, and honestly, friend, I think this next season of this show is going to challenge people differently. Not just emotionally, behaviorally, mentally, relationally. Because people don't change simply because they receive information. People change when they finally become aware of the patterns, the systems, and emotional agreements operating underneath their behavior. See, including the ones that they've normalized. And maybe that's where I'm at in my own life right now. No longer wanting to normalize things just because I survived them. See that part right there? That's the veil. That's the real shift. I don't just want you to survive anymore. I want you to understand. I want you to be intentional. I want you to stop operating from autopilot. I want you to stop calling survival instincts personality traits. They're not. And I think a lot of people listening are there too. So before we start this journey together, there are a few questions I really want you to sit with and honestly sit with. Not the polished answers, not the socially acceptable answers, the real ones. So I need you to ask yourself, who did I become in order to survive? What behaviors have I normalized simply because they helped me get through a hard season? Do I know who I am outside of being needed, helpful, strong, productive, or dependable? What patterns keep repeating in my life even when the people change? See, where in my life am I emotionally complying instead of intentionally choosing? What do I tolerate because it feels familiar? What version of myself do other people benefit from the most? And is that version of me actually healthy? See, what am I afraid would happen if I truly stopped overextending? And do I actually want peace or do I just want control? What conversations, environments, or relationships require me to abandon myself in order to maintain them? Am I living intentionally or reacting from survival? And maybe the hardest question of them all is, if survival was no longer my operating system, who would I become? See, friend, I don't want you to rush through those questions because I think a lot of people are about to realize they've spent years learning how to survive life without ever stopping long enough to ask themselves if they actually like the version of themselves survival created. So, this isn't just a rebrand. This feels more like clarity, like finally understanding what I've actually been studying my whole life: human behavior, human conditioning, human compliance. And friend, we're about to go deeper. I'll talk with you next week. Before you go, sit with this for a moment. Growth doesn't happen because we heard something inspiring. Growth happens when we become honest enough to examine how we're actually showing up in our lives. So take what resonated with you today, reflect on it, and decide what alignment looks like for you. And if this conversation helped you see something differently, share the episode with someone who might need it too. And if you want to stay connected, you can always find me at the Heart's Hello. Until next time, friend, keep choosing truth, keep doing the work, and keep saying hello to your heart.